Hello fantasy managers, and welcome to another video from myself, Will, and fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Lots of good community questions this week. We're going to be having a look at Vardy, Sterling, Aguero, Maddison, closer look at all the Leicester assets. Is it time to let go of Callum Wilson and best replacements for under 8 million bracket? And when should you be making transfers? Is it worth making early transfers to catch those price rises? Also going to be having a look at my team and my transfers and my captaincy for the upcoming game week. Let's get to it. Okay, Slimer's there asking which partner is better, Vardy and Sterling or Aguero and Maddison? Now this type of question is perfect for our brand new comparison tool, so I'm going to jump on there and use that tool to help answer this question. Okay, so this tool is great for comparing multiple sets of players. So I'm going to compare Raheem Sterling and Vardy to Aguero and Maddison. And let's see how those show up. And I think I want it over the last 4 game weeks. I often like to use the last 4 game weeks, but you can use whatever range you want. It's very easy to switch between home and away filters and sort by per start and also per team up here. So if we look now, we can see the stats for this comparison. I'm going to chuck myself out of screen for a moment. And as you can see there, on the left in blue, we've got Sterling and Vardy. And on the right, we've got Aguero and Maddison. You've got all the key stats down here as well. And a really nice snapshot of the overview there. And as you can see, Sterling and Vardy coming out on top in this comparison. So for me, and in answer to Slimer's question, that's the way I'll be leaning. I think that Sterling and Vardy seem like the key men for their teams. And Aguero and Maddison seem like they have a lot of potential, but for me, I think just on the eye test and how they're playing, I would go for Sterling and Vardy. And this comparison is an extra tool that you can use to back those assertions up. So for me, Sterling and Vardy is the way to go on that one. Okay, moving on there. We've got loads and loads of questions on Leicester this week. And thank you all for your questions. I'm sorry I can't get to all of them. But this one is from Mark Bennett. And is it time to jump on board the Leicester bandwagon? Looking very good. And I'm thinking of Wilson to Vardy and Dean to Chilwell. Just enough funds for these transfers. So obviously Leicester absolutely smashed Southampton and everyone wants to jump on board. And ordinarily I might, urge a little bit of caution there, but I've got to say they're looking brilliant value. And looking at the upcoming fixtures, this is the next fixtures over the next 7 game weeks, and they've got a really, really favourable run that includes Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Brighton, Everton, Watford, Aston Villa and Norwich. So a really strong run. They're in great form. Lots of value in their picks as well. So I think that now is a brilliant time to jump on Leicester. Obviously, last week was an even better time to jump on Leicester, but I still think they offer great value moving forward. And I think the likes of Vardy, Chilwell, Maddison, those are the types of picks to go for, and I couldn't begrudge anyone for going that way. For myself, I actually moved for Vardy on Saturday to take advantage of that price rise and move Callum Wilson out. Which brings me on to our next question. Okay, a lot of people sitting with Callum Wilson, and who are the best replacements for under 10 million? Now, I'm going to use another one of our tools to help answer this question. So I'm going to switch over to our Opta Stats tool on Fantasy Football Hub. Okay, jumping into our Opta Stats tool. Now, I'm going to select forwards here because that's the category we obviously want to look at. And we want to have a look at, actually I'm going to go 9.5 to start with. You can also change the game week range up here. I'm going to look at the last 5 game weeks, so game week 6 to game week 10. And down below here, you can have a look at all the key stats. You got shots inside the box, shots on target. So one of the ones that I quite like to look at is expected points. So this is saying that Vardy is expected to have scored 30 points over the last 5 game weeks. And he is top for forwards under 9.5. So if you can stretch to Vardy for your Callum Wilson replacement, I think that he's probably one of the best options, especially as we talked about those upcoming Leicester fixtures. Next up, I would say Abraham. Chelsea still have a really good run. He's looking fantastic value, and as you can see there, he's not far behind Vardy. Next, you got likes of Wesley. Aston Villa have a little bit of a tricky run, so I might look to avoid him. Then you've actually got Callum Wilson himself. So that's telling me that actually Callum Wilson has been a little bit unlucky not to score more points in recent game weeks. So perhaps you could hang on to him. Okay, if I couldn't stretch to Vardy and I already had Abraham, then the one that I'd potentially look at is actually Jimenez. Now, the reason I'd look at him is that he's cheaper than Callum Wilson. He's not too far behind in expected points, so he's offering a little bit better value. And also, if you look at his expected assists, he's top for expected assists by a long way. So he's not just relying on goals, he's got assists in his locker as well. So got good fixtures, good value, and good underlying numbers as well, and potentially lots of different routes to scoring points. So I think that if you were to look for a replacement, then Jimenez is the way to go. That said, I do think Callum Wilson is still a viable option, and he could still score well over the next few game weeks. Okay, moving on then. Really good question from Hornet there. And how much do you monitor price rises to influence an early game week transfer? Really good question, and especially relevant this week as lots of those less assets are rising in price. Now, I have to say that I've already made a move for Vardy. So I actually made him a move for Vardy on Saturday night before he rose in price. I moved out Callum Wilson. I wanted to get Vardy for that run. I think that he's going to be a great pick over the next few game weeks. That said, I don't always make early transfers, even if those prices are rising. And it's a bit of a boring answer, but it actually depends a lot on your team. And what do I mean by it depends on your team? Well, if you think that your first bench player is a good pick, then I'd actually be more inclined to make an early move. Because if you make that early move, then potentially somebody could get injured later in the week and you're relying on that first bench player. I'd also think about whether you've got 2 free transfers. If you've got 2 free transfers, then obviously you can be more inclined to make the early move knowing that you've got an extra transfer in the bank if an injury does come up. But for me, I do often make early transfers, especially this time of the year, because I think it can pay off later down the line. If you've got a good team value, second half of the season, that can really pay off and you can get the team that you want set up. I would say that often the motto of points over pounds is something that should be considered, and I would go along with that in the vast majority of cases. But having said that, if there's a move you want to make, the price is rising, then I'm all for making early transfers. You do need to consider whether there are midweek games, because that can, obviously, players from your team can get injured. But even then, for example, this week, if you have got a good bench player, if you have got another transfer in the bank, then I think there's viable strategy to make those early moves, especially if you're priced out of them by not making them early, which I was in my case. I couldn't make, if I'd left it to Sunday, I wouldn't have been able to make the move for Vardy. Moving on to my team, and last week didn't have any Leicester assets, so didn't manage to cash in on that massive Southampton game. But did have Sterling, and for once he came in with some captaincy points, so really, really pleased about that. Others chipping in was Mount and Abraham, De Bruyne. At the back, no real point. Otamendi again being benched, very, very frustrating. A lot of people being frustrated by Pep's rotation. I know Aguero owners especially. So I've actually moved Otamendi out this week, and I'm going to come on to my transfers now. So this week I've made a transfer for Otamendi and Callum Wilson out for Maguire and Vardy in. Close call between Maguire and Wan-Bissaka. I think they're both good options, but I went over Manchester United defence last week and why I think that bringing those assets in for their upcoming fixture run is a good shout. So I decided to back myself there and brought in Maguire, especially because Otamendi's starts aren't guaranteed. That 0.1 saving allowed me to go Callum Wilson to Vardy. So I'm pretty happy with that move. You know, as I went over, Leicester got a really good run of fixtures. I'm pretty happy with my team now. I still see a lot of people transferring out Salah. And I think that as long as he can hang on to him for a couple more games, then Liverpool actually got on a really nice run. And he's going to be a key captaincy shout. So I'm hoping that he can shoot me back up that leaderboard. In terms of captaincy this week, I think it really does need to be a City asset. I see no real reason to move away from Sterling. Obviously, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Man City's midweek fixture, see if we can glean anything from that, whether Sterling could potentially be benched. But at the moment it's on Sterling, recording this on Tuesday, and unless something happens midweek, it was probably going to stay on Sterling. But that's it from me this week. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button and turn the notifications on. As always, I will leave a link in the description if you want to go check out any of the members tools that I demonstrated in this video, including the comparison tool and the Opta stats tool. Hope you have a great week and good luck for the weekend.